Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to wish you happy holidays and thank you for being here, like always. Uh, actually, I wanted to go back on the video that I previously posted about champion gearing, and I know a lot of that stuff is kind of crazy. So I just wanted to break down a little bit more of gearing um, certain champs and more things of that nature. I also wanted to cover something such as like team composition and solo builds and that kind of stuff. I know it's a lot of information, so I don't really want to overwhelm everybody too much, but just kind of have an idea of what you're looking at and where you're going with your builds. There is a lot of information to take when you're building certain champions, and yes, you can copy and paste a lot of videos out there. That I've done that myself, and there's a lot of people out there that have done so as well. But I just kind of wanted to give you a general breakdown, right? Kind of like a information basic. That's kind of all I really want to do here is just kind of give you guys just a general idea and then just go from there. I know my account is endgame, and I know some of this gear may be too far-fetched for some people, and then for other people it just they can hit the nail on the head. So I'm not too worried about it. Any questions and concerns, whatever, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll try to respond as quickly as I can. But for the most part, it's more about just gathering a collection of champs, right, and just going about the campaign or the dungeons or whatever as progress. Sure, some run times may be too long. Sometimes some of them may be too short. I'm sorry, they can't be too short, right? Some of them may be too long, or they just may be kind of out of whack. But the whole idea is to kind of, well, just be able to beat it. Really, like, what else can we say? So, just as a generalized concept, I talked about nukers, right? So, just a nuker in general is always going to have. I'm just gonna break down these stats real quick. You're gonna want to look at crit rate to be 100%, which kind of we covered that all right already. And then of course, Wukong here being a attack nuker is gonna want more attack, right? So attack being the highest stat, and then crit damage multiplying the attack number, etc., etc. All these stats are really important towards the end goal, and then you're telling me, sure, hey Gonzo, like, you're giving me these crazy stats, but what does that really mean? Well, like, every area of the game is actually broken down differently. So for instance, campaign has a set speed of, I believe it's 106, if 150, if I'm not mistaken. But basically what that means is you're going at a speed of 1 to 1, right? And so when you're looking at your stats, you want to be at a 1-to-1 pace with the enemy, right? So you take a hit, they take a hit, just like every other game, where it's a turn-based game, right? So you take a hit, they take a hit, or however the team composition goes, and that's where all these other mechanics come into play. And so that's why, like, all these stats matter. And a lot of the times you're going to hear a lot of people say stats over sets, and they're 100% correct. But at the same time, why not add on to those stats by adding the sets, right? And I know that some sets are harder to come by than others, so it may not be ideal. So the whole idea is just to make sure you get to where you need to get to, and then optimize later. So yes, you're gonna have to build a champ, and then rebuild later, and then rebuild later, and then optimize, and then rebuild later. Like, that's just the way the game goes, and that's how you build your champs and just get better over time. There's no magic number that's going to get you from point A to point Z, like, just overnight. So that being said, I know I kind of said campaign is like 150. In here it doesn't really tell you what the speeds are, but there are breakdowns. I believe a Yumi Love has a lot of information as far as speeds and resistance and accuracy for areas like dungeons, for a clan boss, for Hydra, for um, basically anything else in the game. When you reach the area of PvP or player versus player, you're going to be having a variation of numbers just because every account is different. You've heard me say that before. But the whole point is just building your champions. Like I said in the previous video, it's more about just getting enough to be able to progress, right? One instance is when you get to Dragon, right? So there's a tournament going on right now for this, but when you're starting off in Dragon, it's just easy to just throw the first 5 champions, right? And that's perfectly fine. Just throw the first 5 champions, and then overall your goal is to reach stage 20 and eventually 25. And then once you get ideal champs, and it makes it easier for you, then your hard stages kind of become more ideal because of the drop rates. So if you look just as far as the gear sets go, of course, these being the gear sets that they drop, and you see here on the chest pieces, it tells you basically what kind of gear ranking you're going to be getting. The rarity kind of variates between rare and legendary, or once you get to the hard modes, it obviously goes to mythical gear. But the reason why I say 20 is because you end up dropping off any of these 4 and any 4-star and below's gear. Just like I said with champs, you go, start from 1 all the way up ranked up to 6, right? So ideally you want 5 and 6-star. I know I haven't shared this. Let's see if I can pull this up real quick for you guys. I haven't shared this in a while, but let me see if I can pull this up on screen for you guys. But the point is, ideally you want a higher ranked piece so it can give you the most value in stats, and that's kind of the whole point of stats versus sets. And I believe it should be right around here. Goodness. Here it is. Probably should have made this a better, right? Here we go. Actually, let's do this one. Alright, so that doesn't work out quite a whole lot, but let me make this bigger for you guys. So like I said earlier, this is a turn-based game where you... Here we go. So this is a turn-based game where you are variated in speeds. And then as you progress, you'll start understanding what these speed requirements are, the accuracy requirements are, and the gear sets even. And that's why I was saying, as far as solo champs, you can technically build a champion that can... They're specific champions, I understand. Sure, very niche, I get it. But you can build a champion that can actually do these with the correct gear, the correct set, can actually do a solo dragon run, for instance, and get you, more than you need, right? So yeah, that's kind of the whole point. And as you can see here on the stat checklist, at 1 star, it only shows the percentages, but it doesn't give you the flat stats on this graph. But I'm sure there's one out there that has it. But you can see, jumping from a 4-star to a 5-star, just in general, you're basically almost doubling the amount of output that you can get. And then, as you can see as well, you have a range of 4 to 6, let's just say, for this attack percentage on a 5-star. You gotta have a range of 4 to 6, but it gives you, so you have your minimum of 4 and your max of 6, meaning that meaning that your range for every roll, on top of just having a base piece, which let me just run over here and I'll move the screen accordingly. So when you get a gear piece, whoa, there we go. When you get a gear piece, let's just say like this 5-star here. And let me move this accordingly here. Sure. Okay, that works. All right. So as you can see here, it has a defense percent of 5, an accuracy percent, an accuracy stat of 9, and a speed of 5. Right. So if we look at our chart, this is a 5-star piece. So our defense percent was a 5, which gave us a mid roll. Right. So if it would have landed as a 4, that would have been a a low roll. 5 obviously mid roll, and then a high roll of 6. Right. On our accuracy, it gave us a 9, which is also a mid roll, and in our speed, it gave us a 5, which is actually a max roll. Not bad, right? So this boot here, let's just say I decided to level it up. Now, this being an epic piece, gives you up to three rolls per stat, and what that means is, on the top here you have your main stat, and then on your substat it has an additional roll or additional stat added onto it, right? So just as for instance, you have your markers of 4, 8, 12, and 16, 16 being the highest for every artifact piece, but at every 4 level you will get an increase in your stats or a increase in your rolls, right? So as I was saying earlier with your additional, we're gonna just go ahead and just roll this up to 4, and you can see it landed on speed as an addition. So now it's a 9 piece. So if you look at it as a 9, you divide that by 2, it's a 4.5, right? So if you look back on our chart, it's a 5-star 4.5. Now it's a mid roll, right? We're gonna roll it one more time to 8. It rolled speed again. Cool. Now it's 14. Divide that by 3. That comes out to 6. No. Math is hard. It's a 2.6. 2 point. No, sorry. 14 divided by 3 is 4. Yeah, 4.6, I believe is what it is. Let me take out the calculator so I don't look like completely bad here. Yeah, 4.6. Wow, I actually got that right. Okay. So 4.6. So 4.6 is a little bit higher on the speed, you know. We're gonna roll this up to 12. Still a mid roll, and now it landed accuracy, right? So it's a mid roll speed, and a, let's see, I'm just gonna do this on the calculator just because it's easier, even though I know it's 9.5. So 9.5 on the scaling here, if we look down here, is a lower mid roll, right? Because you have a variation range of 8 to 11 for accuracy. So now it's a 9.5, so it's pretty much sitting on the mid roll range. So if we look at this boot, just stat wise, right? So your main stat's always going to be the same. Not necessarily. I mean, it still has its different main stats, but it doesn't change. It doesn't add on per se. You do have, I guess it does add on, right? Because every level, it's always adding on more stat to that main stat. So yeah, so that always change. But I mean, that'll always add on, but it's not going to multiply, right? I guess that's kind of the way that I wanted to put it. But these other substats will. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. So going to our graph, this boot has an attack main stat with a defensive substat of mid-range. Your accuracy is going to be a mid-range, and your speed is going to be a mid-range. So if you overall look at the stats and you kind of like, well, what does that mean? Well, what is this piece being used for? etc., you come to all these questions, and also even any champ that this is going to go on, right? So that's kind of how you want to look at these pieces and how to gear your champions, and that was kind of the whole point. I know this is a lot of information. I'm going to have another video breaking down more about this, but I just kind of wanted to throw that out there as an idea, so that way when you're actually acquiring all these pieces and you're trying to figure out what you should do or how you should do it, I'm gonna give you just a general, like, quick tips. Speed boots no matter what, right? So no matter what level, you always want to go with the speed boot. Obviously, the higher the level, the better the boot is going to be. I'm just going to bring a boot out real quick just so we can have this here. Okay. Okay, so here we go. So I have a legendary 6-star speed boot, right? And so the next level upgrade is going to give me 8, right? So if I were just to do that, and now it's an 8 speed boot, I'm going to level it up again. It's going to be 10. It tells you right there on the screen here. But what is it going to roll into? I don't know yet. I could break these down, but ideally the only thing I really care about is the main stat for this speed boot. There is different. It doesn't tell me here, right? Does it tell me here? I guess if I was to go into the filter, right? And so this filter, and you look at the primary stats, these are the stats that are available for boots, and that's it. So you can't get crit rate on your boots as a main stat. You can't get crit damage as a main stat. You can't get resistance as a main stat. You can't get accuracy as a main stat, right? And that's kind of the whole point. But speed being the most ideal, as you get into a higher level and you get into more optimized builds, you can see yourself changing from a speed boot to maybe like an accuracy boot, right? Or I'm sorry, not an accuracy boot. Whoa, what am I saying? A nuking boot. And what I mean by that, or a survivability boot. No, I would say nuking boot. So your only options really are nuking or speed, because you always want to go fast because you want to take more turns, right? Get the idea. And then or you want to nuke, right? So you can slow down your nukers, and you can basically add more stats on them based off of their DPS. So let's see. I'll give you a good example here. Just like my Arbiter here, she's a support champion. Everybody gets this champion, so there you go. She has a speed boot, right? She has an attack chest piece, even though she's not a nuker. It's an attack chest piece, but the only thing that I cared about with this build was her speed. That's the only thing that I cared about. I can look on my entire account, and I will not find another chest piece that has a higher speed percentage. I can go equipped and substat speed, and that's pretty much the only thing I care about. Oops, there we go. So I can go in here and see that Arbiter has the highest speed chest plate, and that's basically how it goes. And then same thing with her gloves, highest speed, and that's pretty much it. So making her the fastest on my account being 378. I don't know if you can see that. No, you can't. So let me move this. Blah blah blah. There we go. So there's that. As far as just sets go, sometimes I understand that, for instance, just a speed set, right? Speed set will give you a speed bonus of 12%. And 12% actually is quite a bit, and that is based off of your base stat. So if I go over here, it gives me her base speed is going to be 110, and then with the additional speed that I've gained throughout all the pieces, it's 262 additional speed, plus her masteries give her another 6. But if you add all these together, so this being 57 here, this being 28 there, actually I haven't done the math, but then you add another 12% on top of the base, which is 110. What's the, it should be, so 110 times 12%. So she's getting an additional 12 speed. No, I'm sorry, 0.12 speed. If that makes sense. I know it's kind of weird, but percentages do matter. And yeah, no, I mean, that's pretty much it. And I mean, we can go through every single one of these gear sets, but the whole point is that you have to actually just read what it does, and you kind of have the idea of kind of what you're looking for. Lifesteal, for instance, one of the major early game ones, is it heals by 30% of the damage dealt. So basically, you're not going to put this on a support champion. Lifesteal doesn't really help you if you're not doing damage, right? So ideally, what you want is your nukers or your DPS is going to wear this, do damage, get health back. That's it, right? There's some other ones, like for instance, like this cursed set. So this cursed set has a 50% chance to place a hex debuff. How do you place a hex debuff? Well, you have to attack and actually hit an enemy, and then you're able to place a debuff, right? Now there is a variation of a set debuff, just like I said now with the cursed, and then there's an accuracy debuff, or I'm sorry, a skill debuff, which you need accuracy for. And so with the set, you don't necessarily need accuracy to be able to land the debuff. It just is just a random application. And what I mean by that is if you hit enough times, it's gonna land, right? You have a percentage chance to land if you hit, etc., etc. Now with accuracy, you can, I mean, with the skill debuff, you can actually have a better chance to land it. And I'll give you, for instance, just like with this Kymar here, he will place a sleep debuff for 1 turn. Actually, that doesn't help because it just tells you it places. Let's go with this guy here. So Ultimate Death Knight has a 30% chance of placing a provoke, right? So he has a chance. Being booked, he has a 50% chance of placing a provoke. Now, affinity matters, guys. I believe we kind of went over this before, but affinity does matter. You kind of learned that early in the game, but some people forget. So if I was to hit a spirit champion, I have a less likely chance to land my debuff because it's a weak hit. So on a weak hit, I cannot land almost any debuff unless, for whatever reason, it reads in the coding that yes, it will land it no matter what. I can give you a good example. There is a certain champion that I currently have that places it no matter what. If I could find him. Is he here? That's part of the game too, is trying to find the champions that you have. Here we go. I spend more time looking for champions than actually doing the work. Alright, so Ghostborn here has a ability that places, here we go, that places defense no matter what, and it says that the debuff cannot be resisted. So he'll end up just landing it without any accuracy needed, and that's it. So whenever you're building him, you don't necessarily need accuracy. Some people do put accuracy for his A1 and his A2. Sometimes those are important, so you'll see some people run like 250 accuracy or so. Typically any dungeon is about 250 is all you really need. So just tidbit information there. And I think that's mostly it as far as like, gearing your champions. I know it's a lot of information. I get it. But you can always reach me in the comments. You can always reach me on Twitch. Feel free. As far as team composition goes, I'm just going to give you a general breakdown, and then I believe that'll be the end of the video. So, general breakdown. What I always recommend is you always want a nuker, right? You always want a reviver, right? You always want some type of control champion. Let's just say Mr. Kymar here, because he does place asleep. There is other champions that place provoke. There is other champions that place a stun. You want something like that, and you want some type of either turn meter boost, or you want something additional that helps. There are champions that have different kinds of kits. I've kind of gone over a few of them that kind of have some good stats, or sorry, some good skills, but there's some that are better, right? So that's why I always say read your champion, understand what it means, figure out how every puzzle piece fits together, and then of course, like I said earlier, there's a bunch of videos out there on how to gear certain champions and how to run certain compositions that'll make it better. But ideally, you want your nuker, you want some control, you want a reviver, and you want some type of support, so like healing, right? So like cleansing, right? So or some type of, what else, a secondary revive, a secondary, you want something additional, like anything that you're lacking, you want an addition to, right? So let's just say I want more speed. So I have somebody that boosts my turn meter, that can boost my speed, that can boost, that can control the other champions. But that's kind of what I'm looking for when I'm building my team composition. And then, of course, it does change with every fight. Just like I was saying earlier, you have different requirements with, like for instance, a spider team. Actually, we went dragon, right? So. So let's just say a typical dragon composition would be like, hey, I'm gonna put, a nuker. I gotta find somebody. Here we go. So I'm gonna do with Kayle. I have my decreased defense, right? So decreased defense gives me more DPS. I'll pick a secondary nuker just because I can do that. So we're gonna pick a secondary nuker. I'm gonna pick a control champion, so he brings his lockout on his A1. So I'm gonna do that, and maybe some type of revive, right? So I want a revive champion. I know I have a. Here we go. So there's my revive. She's also a cleanser, which really helps out, and I think that's about it. So we're going to try this on stage 20. Yes, I understand my gear may be a little bit different than other people's. I get it, but the concept is the same. That's the whole point, that these champs work together to get through the content. And if you guys have any questions on stats or anything like that, please feel free to hit me up. I'll be glad to answer any questions there. But as you can see, I'm just gonna let this run through. I didn't really specify how I wanted them built. A lot of these guys are built for faction wars, they're built for other areas of the game, Doom Tower, etc., etc. But because I've been playing for so long, a lot of these stats still apply for earlier game content. So we're almost to the dragon here. Boom. All right, so now we got to the dragon, and like I was saying earlier, like just the way the team works together is kind of the whole idea. I mean, that's pretty much it. Pretty easy, right? I know I make it look easy. I know, but the idea is the same. It's not necessarily rocket science, but it does take some brain power. I get it. It might be a little bit difficult, but it's not at the end of the world, guys. I promise. So there you go. There you have it. Stage 20. I got a legendary piece. Look at that. Pretty cool. 6-star. Let's go. All right, guys. If you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up anytime here on Twitch, or here on YouTube, or there on Twitch. All right, guys, have a good one. Much love. Bye.